Good evening, everybody, and welcome back. We got the first show of the new year. Tonight, we're going to talk about some UFOs, and we're going to try and determine if this next one is real or if it's a hoax. Before we dive right in, though, let's take a second and introduce ourselves to the viewers. My name's Timothy Fling. I'm a writer and publisher from York, Pennsylvania. Let's go around the room. Rodney, we'll start with you. Tell us who you are.
Hey guys, I am Rodney Fike. I am a writer, creator, artist, colorist for Hasm Productions on such titles as Peanut Pudding and Jelly, Pitter Patter, Unchained, Roadkill, Rampage, and Doghouse.
Nice. Welcome, Rodney. It's always good to have you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Next up, Todd, my pal. Todd, tell us who you are and what you're mostly known for.
Hey, how are you guys doing? My name is Todd Tochioka. I'm a letterer and colorist, mostly for Jim Valentino over at Shadowline. We just released the second print of the Normal Man Omnibus, so that should be hitting the stands pretty soon.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming, Todd.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Next up, and thanks for coming on such short notice, Mr. Tom Hutchison. Tom, tell us who you are.
Sure, yeah. Tom Hutchison. I'm the writer, publisher, art director, sales guy, all things, all hats at Big Dog Inc. We just started our 15-year anniversary in 2025.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Make some good stuff over there, Tom. I'm glad to have you. Welcome to the show.
I appreciate it.
So tonight we're going to talk about a UFO sighting that's kind of well known internationally, but it's not as well known in the States. This happened in 1979. It's called the Cecconi UFO sighting. And it's interesting for a couple of reasons, but probably one of the main reasons is this is one of the first photographed appearances of what they call the cylindrical UFO. Typically, UFO reports tend to circle around flying saucers, right? What we would call a saucer shape. But sometimes gaining ground is the cylindrical UFO. Before we go into the account, I want to ask you a question. First up, Rodney, what do you think of the cylindrical UFO? There's some speculation that these might be man-made. What's your sense on the cylinder?
I don't know. They always seem to have, like this one has a bubble or something in the middle of it.
Right.
That's maybe translucent.
Mm-hmm.
And they to me, they always seem to have people peeking out at passersby, if you will.
Yeah, it's certainly a weird shape. And Rodney's right. In this case, there was like a canopy on the top of what we're guessing is a craft. I'm going to circle back around to that. Todd, what do you think? Is the cylindrical UFO easier to believe than a flying saucer or more difficult?
I think they're both so fantastic that it's hard to not believe and yet believe at the same time, if that makes sense. But seeing something like this, it's interesting just to think about the theory that went into the design of this one, right? It's like, oh, the aerodynamics is just such that it can do this and this. I think this type of craft is, to me, even more fascinating than your typical saucer-shaped craft or even a triangle shape,
Yeah. And one of the things that's strange about it, particularly in this case, is no visible means of propulsion. No, which I guess is true of a saucer too, but at least a saucer can be kind of thrown, But a cylinder, the shape of it almost defies flight. Tom, what's your 2 cents on the cylindrical UFO? First off, does it make it more likely that it's a fake, or is it just the same as the other one?
Yeah, this type of stuff is always weird to me because, we've had things that can look like this forever, blimps and so on,
Right.
So I think something like this could very easily be faked just within those constructs. So these types of things really, then it comes down to, okay, this thing's up in the sky, but what's it actually doing? Is it moving up? Is it moving down, left, right, spinning? Like, what is it doing to be more than just let's put up an inflatable something in the sky and let people freak out about it? So I think it is interesting, particularly if we do see movement, because like we said, there is no necessarily like, where's the engine? How does it move itself? I think that is definitely an interesting thing. But again, I think these are probably the most easiest types of things to potentially fake if you wanted to fake it.
Right, right. Yeah, I got to agree with that. And the thing about the cylinder, I'm going to see if I can find an image and we'll show the viewers. It's not too different than certain types of weather balloons.
Mhm.
Now, that said, weather balloons don't have canopies and they weren't going, I think they said it was 500 miles per hour in this case. So let's circle over to the Italian Air Force, right? The first thing, I mentioned this before, I'm inclined to take the opinions of pilots more seriously. And the reason why I mention that, of course, they are trained to recognize aerial phenomena, things like, those circular shaped storm clouds and various types of electrical phenomena in the sky, even unusual shapes, which can be a lot of things. So I guess the first question, I'm going to ask this to Rodney. A decorated Air Force pilot in Italy swears that he saw this thing and took 80 photos of it. So I guess my first question is, do you feel that the Italian Air Force is a credible source?
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, why wouldn't they be any more credible than the U.S. Air Force or the Spanish Air Force?
Well,
the bottom line is they're trained pilots, and any military, anybody, they're trained to be able to identify the sounds of aircraft, gunfire, explosions, down to single rifles. They know single crafts. They know. I've got military friends who, when a plane is flying over, we were in San Diego in the ocean swimming, and a plane drove by, and he was like, "Yeah, that's a warthog." He knew. And
right.
These
they can tell by the silhouettes of them.
Yeah, they know the silhouette imprint in the sky, and all that stuff. So, yeah, I believe absolutely that he's 100% credible.
So in this case, it's a pilot by the name of Giancarlo Cecconi who saw this object. And, they were out on a training exercise, and he was in one of these types of planes that's equipped with a bunch of photographic apparatus. Like they're going to take pictures of the landscape and stuff. Well, as soon as he sees this object, he starts snapping photos like crazy. So I guess I'd ask the question a different way then, because my guess is if he was an American, we'd be hearing about this every day in the news. Todd, why do you think this didn't make it into bigger news? Is it because of it happening in Italy?
Well, when I was going down the rabbit hole doing the research on this for this episode, I had read that the Italian government actually wanted to keep it pretty hush hush.
Right.
So maybe it's that. And then later on is when Cecconi came out and started talking about what he really saw. I think he saw something that he couldn't describe and he couldn't explain. He was fascinated. He'd never seen anything like it before. So whether it was fake or not, or whether it was even something like a weather balloon, like what their government actually released it as being.
Correct.
It's convenient that weather balloons, just get put over for everything. It doesn't make it any less credible. I think he definitely saw something he could not identify, as did the other people on the ground.
Well, and there's an interesting aside to it, right? Which this whole incident took place within viewing range of the airport, and the ground staff was watching this on binoculars. So I'm going to swing this around and keep it on the Italian government. Why would they try to cover this up? Like that's the part that sticks out to me. There was a document written, and I don't speak Italian, but the gist of it is it's like one of those, it's like a restricted information, and this is a weather balloon, and that's all there is to it, and stop talking about it. So I'm going to ask Tom this question. Why would the Italian government do that?
Same reason we covered up Roswell. It's whether it's alien or not sort of is irrelevant. It's something secret, top secret, weapon, security, something in that realm of capacity. Is look, these guys found something we didn't really want them to see, or at least we didn't want them to photograph and tell people about it. So we gotta create our own story. The only thing I'll say about the thought process of the credible witness, and particularly in the pilots and so on, is that I've watched interviews with airline pilots telling me that the Earth is flat. So,
No kidding.
how? Yeah, for real. They'll tell you, yeah, I'm up there, guys. It's flat. So credibility, even that can sometimes be questioned.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
For either because somebody wants to lie or because they're lying because they're too afraid of the real truth or whatever. So, credible witnesses, that's what makes credible witnesses very difficult, is sometimes they want to believe something that wasn't there. They have their own interpretation of what was there, and they want to tell that story when it really was just a weather balloon or a blimp got away, or, whatever it happens to be.
Well, and you bring up an interesting point, Tom, that we do still live in a world with the flat earthers. And let's just take a minute and talk about that, because whenever I hear this, I think that the person is trolling me. I honestly do. And I used to work with a fellow who was he was sort of an adamant flat earther. And have you ever heard some of the explanations of what these guys believe?
Here and there, yeah, some of it.
Yeah, it's really out there. And first of all, I love theories that are out there, but I don't really understand how they can espouse this theory. Like, one of them is that the Earth is flat, and whenever you go on a flight somewhere, you're actually flying to the same. We're all flying to the same location, and it's made to look like different airports, so that we won't be able to see the edge of the flat surface, stuff like that. Like a massive.
Well, there's true lunacy. I mean, there's people that will tell you that Australia doesn't exist. I mean, there's true lunacy. And then there's people who believe the flat Earth, and they have their thought process of this is what it looks like, and this is using, particularly they love to use flight paths of planes. Like, why are we going here and here instead of just here to here, and whatever it happens to be. But it's a wild topic, the flat Earth. That's another good show for you down the line.
Yeah, I'd actually like to get that on the air. Here's a quick look at the aircraft that Cecconi was in, which pretty the standard type of aircraft. But what sticks in my mind about this case, I was just reviewing it. So the object was moving at 300 miles an hour. So almost as fast as a plane, and going up and down with a little bit of what they call non-ballistic motion. So to me, that would be the first proof that it is not a weather balloon, is the ability to move at that kind of speed. So I'm going to ask the question, right? We don't see any kind of rockets. We don't see any kind of jets on this thing, but it's moving fast. Rodney, what is the propulsion on this alleged craft?
I think it's the bent space, bent time.
Yeah.
It popped into my head right before the show came on. I was looking at some of the photographs, and it's kind of similar to the Tic Tac. It's a little rougher, but the Tic Tac just glides through. No source of propulsion or anything. So maybe there's a connection. Maybe that's Tic Tac version 1.
Yeah, for sure. Todd, you want to take a swing at this one? What is the means of propulsion on this thing? Keep in mind, 300 miles an hour is fast.
That's fast, man. I mean, flux capacitor, maybe 88 miles an hour. I mean, shoot, like Rodney was saying, bending time and space, wouldn't that be incredible? It could be something like magnetics. It could be something like harmonics. But whatever it is, it's still able to operate in our atmosphere.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm a kind of a believer in the bending gravity theory. Tom, you want to take a swing at this one? What's powering this craft?
I don't know. I have no idea. When we talk about the bending space and all that kind of stuff, that all I ever remember is going back to the Star Trek movie where Spock teaches about transwarp beaming, and then Scotty says, it didn't occur to me to assume that space was the thing that was moving instead of whatever else was in his calculation. So there's all kinds of wild concepts of bending time and space, and to get here to here, you got to fold it together to get it somewhere. Yeah. I mean, there's no clear rocket. There's no clear, like, emanation of light, like this is where it's coming from.
It was allegedly giving off a little bit of some bluish light, but not necessarily.
Sure,
like
but not in
smoke.
like the end of a
Yeah.
rocket or anything.
Right,
Just sort of
yeah,
a glow, right? So now you're talking about, going into like these guys said, it's magnetism, it's potentially, harmonics and stuff, or it could be something even wilder, like, the warp concept of space.
Yeah. Which I think we all kind of believe in. I wanted to say the thing about this cylindrical UFO, it's been that way a couple times. It has been sighted in other places, right? There was I'm going to circle over to 2024. This is what they called the LaGuardia UFO incident, in which a woman sitting in a window seat looks over and says, "What's that?" Snaps a couple of pictures of it, and what do they find is that it looks remarkably like the Cecconi UFO, at least I do. So let's start with Rodney. Do you see in this photo, this one does look like it could have some, supposedly they say that's a canopy, like on top of it, like a little clear part. And this one,
Yeah.
you can kind of see it.
Yeah, this one looks more refined. Is that a sheen on top of it, or is that the canopy again?
Well, it's hard to say. Like I said, here's a little bit more like an artist rendering.
Okay.
Which I have there. That's the same image, but it looks like it's cleaned up with artificial intelligence or something.
I don't know. I mean, it looks very similar. Like I said before, maybe it's a newer version of the one from '79.
Yeah, the newest model.
Yeah.
So, Todd, what do you make of this? Do you think it's the same race of people, or what are we seeing here?
Maybe possibly the same type of technology, like Rodney said. Maybe it's the new the new hybrid model by Tesla. It definitely could be the same type of craft working on the same type of technology. You said this one was taken from an aircraft going into LaGuardia?
This is from April of 2024. It's very new. And the only reason why I know about it is because, when you do research on the Cecconi incident, you're going to get quite a bit of background noise. Hey, this thing looks a lot like the LaGuardia UFO. And admittedly, it does.
Interesting. Yeah, gee, maybe. When I was doing research for this episode, they also there were stories about other cigar-shaped craft that had been sighted right around that time too. Perhaps that was the latest technology that was being either used by interstellar beings or being tested by our government, and just happened to be seen. It's fascinating though, like you guys are talking about, that there's no discernible area of propulsion.
Right. Nothing to even if it was just hovering. How do I want to say this? Like if it was a weather balloon, they drift. They have a current of their own. That's a moving object. And I guess there's multiple incidents where this thing was either A, standing still, which also a weather balloon can't do, and then, achieving these high speeds. So, Tom, I'm going to give you the last word on this one. Is this the same UFO in LaGuardia as it was in the Cecconi UFO photograph?
I mean, it's definitely similar. This one seems to have more angles on it, though. Like the back of it, when you go to that original picture that you had, if you look at it, the back end has almost like an angle to it, the very, very back end.
Yeah.
So it has a little more design shape than just being like a cigar, which is interesting. The front is still basically cigar, but then the back end, when you look at some of the better pictures, it has like a little, we'll call it a fin at the back end, but
so some kind of directional something.
Right. So, it could definitely be, like we talked about, similar thing, just a little more the next step, whatever that means. So, yeah, I mean, there's been cigar shaped stuff all over the place for a long time. So, but if this is from this year, that's a wild picture to be able to get. And of course, there's still crappy pictures, right? I mean, with all the technology that we have and all the stuff.
Yeah, believe it or not, this one's from an iPhone, and she took it even, it's airplane glass in front of her.
Oh, so okay. So again, we've got a little bit of distortion because of the airplane. Okay, got it. So that's going to affect it a little bit. But you would think, again, if this is, I mean, we've been seeing all these drones and stuff everywhere. how many people are down below there that no one else got a picture of this thing than this woman in a plane?
Good point. Good
It's
point.
very, very odd. But who knows?
And by the way, my understanding is that most of the other people on the plane didn't see the object. I guess there was one or two that did.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is we're coming into a time, guys, where anything can be faked. I mean, anything is going to be able to be faked. And something like a cigar-shaped UFO in the sky, like I could probably sit down in Photoshop and make something similar to this and have it look very, very real. So, with AI and just, all the effects that people use for movies and stuff nowadays, fakes are going to be very, very prevalent.
And that's why, in a way, I kind of prefer the older UFO accounts. When I say older, I mean the 1979 one.
Sure.
Because there wasn't the tools that we would have now to create these fakes. But there were other things. So let's take the con position for a minute. Like they talk about these Navy target balloons. Okay. And these are actually something from the 40s. And my understanding is, somebody please correct me in the comments if I get this wrong, but it's a type of balloon that helps with targeting for missiles. It tracks things. And you notice there it is on board the boat, but it is a little bit of a similar shape.
Yeah. Are you able to find a picture of that's not on a boat?
I think so.
And see what the back end of it looks like? But yeah,
Well, I don't know about the
can
back end.
see
Here's one in the air, though.
there. I mean, that's it. I mean, that's the thing right there. That's what we're looking at for the most part, for all intents and purposes.
Right.
So that's a pretty wild looking thing.
So, Rodney, what do you make of the Navy target balloon theory? You think it could have been the Navy target balloon?
No, because well, for one, that this doesn't have the bubble in the middle, the canopy, we'll call it, and it doesn't. Don't these just float out there on the surface to be shot at?
Well, right. That's kind of where I want to hear you guys' answers, but these are more like floating. It's more like a blimp, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it is the kind of a thing where people are saying, for some reason, Italian people seem to think that it is a targeting balloon, but most people that research UFOs kind of go, wait a minute, this thing.
Okay. But answer me this: if it was a targeting balloon, why would it be over in a populated area?
And why would it be going 300 miles an hour?
Exactly.
Yeah, that part to me is a little unbelievable.
Yeah,
Todd, what's your 2 cents on the target balloon theory?
That's a tough one to put over. I don't see any type of balloon having the technology to be able to maneuver as was described. So, yeah, I don't buy it at all.
Here's the thing with the 300 miles an hour that's bothering me is even if people saw it on the ground, this guy saw it in the sky, and it's going 300 miles an hour, wouldn't it just be like and gone?
Well, he was in a plane.
Sure, but he took 80 pictures of this supposedly, and there's 2 online. Like, where's the rest of the photos?
Okay.
So there's a whole bunch of photos. Those are like the 2 best ones.
But
the rest were kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing, though. When he tried to maneuver around the thing to get pictures from different angles, it matched his pace, so he could only get pictures from one angle. Did you guys read anything about that?
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of the point. That's how they know it's going that fast, is because he was going a little faster. I guess that he was trying to overtake it, and it kept evading his position.
Okay.
So the weather balloon's not going to do that.
Yeah. Or at least it's unlikely. I got to say that it doesn't seem like a weather balloon to me. There was also a pretty famous incident in the 50s, I believe it was, 1957. This isn't the first Italian encounter with a cigar-shaped UFO. Now, in this case, this is from one of their newspapers. It's a little bit of a, can you guys see that? There it is. Mm-hmm. And it's a representation. In this case, it's not a very good representation, because my understanding is the people were in a stadium when they saw this UFO. It was like, but it's the thing where like 10,000 people saw it. So I guess my next question would be, why do Italians seem to be resisting the existence of UFOs? It would seem to me that with the cigar-shaped thing, and in addition to this UFO sighting in a stadium, they'd be strong believers. Why do you think they are not strong believers, Rodney?
Well, when you say they, who do you mean? The
The
government?
Italian
Or-
people in general.
I, what makes you say that they are the Italian people in general?
Well, I'll start with this. And again, hey, if I got this wrong, please feel free to correct me. But reading through the accounts, you're going to see a lot of Italian folks saying things like, it's a weather balloon, it's a weather balloon. And the main reason why is this document that I'm showing you, which is from the Ministry of Defense. And it's basically saying, hey, stop spreading UFO rumors. This is a weather balloon.
But that's the same thing that happens in the States, especially in the 50s and 60s. More people, which is why people never came out and said what they saw, because they were afraid of ridicule. More people then thought that you were nuts if you said you saw something in the sky. And that was as prevalent here as it was anywhere else in the world. So I think it's just a matter of the further we get in and the more revelation of things coming out and everybody being able to capture things on their camera phones and stuff like that. There, the tables are starting to turn. I think more people believe it. There is something else other than what we're being told there is.
Right. I don't know if. Well, Todd, what's your sense on the Defense Ministry denying the existence of UFOs? It seems like they wanted to do that without even really looking into the evidence. Like, why? Yeah. My question is why.
Maybe even, in the late 70s, they were still worried about something that was not necessarily known or natural to what we were being taught and told in Western civilization. The Vatican's there too, so I don't know. They don't want to cause an uproar or loss in membership. So could be a lot of things, right? I mean, 1979, I remember, trying to get my friends to watch Project UFO with me, and
it was
stupid, but it was my granddad that got me into that because he was fascinated with UFOs, and so I naturally became fascinated. And at that time, it was still something that amongst my friends we didn't talk about, lest you be called kind of nutso.
Right.
There's the kid who talks about flying saucers being real. Well, he's also the kid that thinks ghosts are real too. So yeah, there's that weird kid.
I think we're all kind of the weird kids in this room.
Yeah, the government actively, they loved the idea of the conspiracy theory. They love that because they.
When
can
you say
do
they loved it, you mean who loved it?
The government loves that because they can now release anything they want, and it doesn't matter who says yes or no. They can just be it's a conspiracy theory nut. That's a conspiracy theory nut. And so, throughout all the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even the 80s, I mean, it was always like, oh, you saw something? No. You saw the Loch Ness Monster? No. You saw a UFO? No. You saw a Sasquatch? No. This is all BS. And it all got labeled under conspiracy theory elements. JFK was shot from the front. Nah, conspiracy theory. Everything can be landed in this. This is just a conspiracy theory. You're a conspiracy theory nut. And those people then that say UFOs are real, Earth is flat, Sasquatch is my, wife, whatever. All of those people can just be, conspiracy theory crazies. Don't listen to them no matter what they say, even if what they say is actually true.
Well, you kind of have a point, and some of you guys know that I'm a little bit skeptical of government already, and it's, how do I want to say this? Because I get it that I sometimes sound like a kook. I'm more of a believer than a non-believer, but it's not because I've seen a UFO or anything like that, and mostly because we have caught the government lying to us multiple times. It's funny, you get a little older and people say things to you like, well, you're a conspiracy nut, you're a kook. But the fact is we've seen the government lie a bunch of times. There's so much proof. You just kind of get used to it, right? But in the case of the Italians, and to a lesser extent the Mexicans, they have a lot of UFO sightings, in some cases hundreds in a year, and they don't seem to break into the mainstream media. Rodney, do you think that there's a bias for Americans that we somehow not ignore, but we somehow downplay international media accounts, especially UFOs?
Oh yeah, and I think that's designed that way because it's simply out of sight, out of mind. If we don't hear about it, we don't know about it. I mean, the media, that's the media in general. They feed us what they want us to know, not what actually happens. So that just goes right in line with the way the world's ran.
Yeah. Here's a quick look at. You can see he kind of shot it from overhead. There, you just see it as a circle, like he's looking at the tip of it, kind of. But I know, Todd, what's your sense on international media? Why do you think the U.S. downplays international media?
Because it doesn't come from our Associated Press. I don't know. Again, perhaps it's just an us versus them thing. I mean, they'd rather give domestic stories the airplay and the business and the sensationalism. It's really interesting how cut off from the rest of the world the United States is becoming, and media is a big part of that. Even though we're so worldly with the internet, everybody is so sheltered in their own little bubble. So it could be something just as explainable as the media outlets don't want to give any other credence or credit to other media sources that are not their immediate media sources. So the circle of money is not being exchanged. Or it could be something that they just don't have the time to report it because they're sending out so much other disinformation. They don't have time.
That's an interesting take. I would almost guess that having UFO accounts plastered all over the newspapers would sell more, or by whichever way you sell news. I realize I just said newspapers. That probably sounds ridiculous. But there even used to be such a thing as magazines that would cover the UFO sightings. Tom, I'm going to give you the final word on the media. I mean, why would they downplay international accounts? It seems like it would sell more media. What's their motive?
Compartmentalize the information that whoever is running the media. Because if you think that the people who are reading the media are the people who made the stories, no. This is all being fed into the news programs and wherever you want it to go. This is what you're going to say today. And that goes to all the places. So it's all compartmentalized. And they don't want us to see the other countries, just in general, regardless of whether it's UFOs or in general. There's all kinds of like governmental protests and all kinds of crazy stuff going around the world that does not end up on our mainstream media, like at all. That's why they're trying to get rid of things like TikTok, because TikTok is live around the world 24/7. And when something's happening in France, it's on TikTok somewhere. And all of that stuff is being shown almost by the minute. Like, here's the real story about whatever this is happening right now. And it cannot be, there's no filter on it. There's no, well, no, it wasn't that guy. It was something else. It's not what we're dealing with here. No, it's a weather balloon. It's like, no, it's right there. It's happening right there. I'm showing you it's happening right now.
Yeah, they don't have time to spin it.
Yeah, and they don't want to lose that control of narrative. It's taken so long for them to build this infrastructure up of, we have the narrative, we will tell you what you need to know. And now social media is like, yeah, but I know other things because I'm watching it in other places, and it's a completely different story, or a story you haven't chosen to tell us at all. So yeah, it's that's why media right now is falling apart. And it is all very us versus them. It's Republican, Democrat, left, right. It's Russia, it's US. Everything is us versus them. Everything's designed to be separate these people so that they fight, argue, and butt heads while we do what we need to do behind the scenes.
Interesting. When you say that the media is, how did you say it? Dematerializing, or it's crumbling?
Yeah, basically, yeah. It's the mainstream media is it's starting to come apart, just like everything. It's all just starting to come apart. We as citizens and people and human beings are realizing that we're being fed things, information, and that isn't necessarily right. We're being fed it in ways that are sketchy and weird and strange. And well, we'll tell you a little bit of this, but you don't need to know all of it. Why not? Just tell us all of the things. Why can't we handle all of the things? Give us all of the details. Well, we don't think you can handle it. That's really what it comes down to, is in their brains, all the way back to Roswell. You can't handle that aliens are here. You can't deal with the truth, and that's just what it's become through all these decades. And now we have this, and it's filtering out because the people that were part of this great compartmentalization are now dying out, and all they do is watch TV and like whatever news channels there are. But the kids that are coming up, the younger generations, they don't watch TV. They watch whatever's on their phone, and they're watching people live on the scene going, yo, I'm at this concert, I'm at this football game, I'm at this protest, I'm at this thing where, whales are beaching themselves. We're seeing the reality expand in front of our eyes because of social media and the connectivity that we have around the world.
I'm really glad that you brought this up. I'm very skeptical of media as it is, I should say. And I almost don't follow any modern news sources because I'm so dissatisfied with the way they tell it. Let me go slightly off topic. So what do you picture the next form of media being? Like, is it news? Is it a blend of social media and news? Is it total individual reporting? It's going to be some new form. What's it going to be?
It's already here. It's long form podcasting. Long form.
Yeah, we're doing it right now. We're doing it right now.
It's your Joe Rogans. It's your Sean Hannity's. It's your, Sean Ryan's. Whoever else you get on there, and every show's 3 hours long.
Yeah,
it's uninterrupted conversations about things that they're interested in.
But even in that,
organic.
Yeah, but even in that, there are still the us versus them aspects. There will be people that'll be like, I'm not listening to Joe Rogan because he had Trump on his thing. Like,
and even that, Tom, that is part of the shaping and constructing of Rogan's been painted with a broad brush because he had Trump on there. Okay.
Yep.
And even before he had Trump on, he's just a meathead. All he knows about is fighting and weights. And nobody, the general people don't take the time to get to know. Oh, let's go listen to him talk to fighters, listen to him talk to actors, listen to him talk to hunters, to doctors, to physicians, to all across the spectrum, and he covers a wide array of people. But if you're just listening to the noise, everybody's saying, well, he's just a meathead. He don't know what he's talking about. He's not worth your time. Then that's part of it. They don't want you listening to him because you might get a little bit of something that they don't want you to get
100%.
Because of the way his show is formatted. And he doesn't censor. He doesn't have a list of questions. And there's three people in that room. It's him, it's the producer, and it's the person he's interviewing, and that's it. And they go 100% organic. No editing or anything. So that's scary to governments around the world.
Yeah, and it does. I think Tom was right. It does seem to be increasing, and I think that's the trend is likely to keep going. Todd, what do you make of the media? Do you think that we're going to see podcasts more as a form of news, or what do you think it's going to be?
I think that the mainstream news is always going to be there. Sort of like there's always going to be traffic in LA, so there's always going to be people tuning into some radio station or some news feed because they report on traffic every 5 minutes.
There's always that eye in the sky.
What it's like living here, man. People say that's fucking crazy, but we could get stuck in 3-hour traffic if we're not leaving at the right time. So here at least, so there's always going to be a need for the automobile, and there's always going to be need for information feeding into those automobiles when people are on the road. They're soaking up information somehow, even if they're tuned into their music and their Pandora. Every once in a while, I notice Pandora breaks in with something that sounds like a commercial, but it sounds like they're just reading the headlines all of a sudden. What is that? So it's being fed everywhere, no matter what.
I think I agree with you. Tom, you're going to get the last word. What is the future form of media?
Yeah, I think we're on the right track here, except that attention spans aren't enough for people to watch a 3-hour show. That's one of the other problems with, like what Rodney was saying, is, hey, this guy does this great 3-hour show with all these different people. Most people in the world aren't going to sit and listen to those
Right.
types of things. So it has to become, even if it's, you take that 3 hours, it's the clips that get posted then. Same
Right.
thing with TikTok. It's like, okay, here's 3 hours, but we're going to boil it down into, these 10 3-minute clips. This is what you need to know. Clip, 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 clip. These are the key elements. So you can always go back to the source, but I think faster information is going to become the thing. It's sort of like where we live now in this headline world, where you'll be on Facebook and a little thing can be like, oh, breaking news, something happened, and people will just judge everything about their decision on that by the headline without even clicking and reading the article and discerning anything. But at least if it's like a podcast like Joe Rogan, at least the clip shows Rogan talking, shows Trump talking, shows whoever it is. You can see that. However, deep fakes are coming. Deep fakes are happening. Deep fakes are real right now. And I've seen some really crazy good ones where I had to take a second and go, wait a minute, that's not real.
Yeah,
and even I had to take a shot at really concentrating to see if it was real or not. So that's where we're going to have a real problem, is even if we go into this podcast world and this clip world, that stuff can be generated through AI and Photoshop and all these other things to appear real, and cause more problems.
Interesting.
In fact, right now, just as sort of a little side to that, we've been told that Meta, Facebook, Instagram, so on, is actively creating AI accounts to go into the space, and it will talk in threads. Here's a thread of comics. Well, I'm going to talk about comics, and then it'll pop ads in there. It'll move you where you want to go. They literally just told us we're sending AI accounts into the space, and I don't know how easy it's going to be to spot them. I mean, I can spot bots and scammers pretty fast right now, but at the rate that AI is growing, who knows what any of this is going to look like in the next even just 5 years.
Couple months. I would say a couple of months. The estimates on AI, of course, we all know it's coming and have seen multiple examples, but the main point that they're making is however fast you think it's coming,
it's faster.
It's faster. Yeah. You remember, you're talking about something that's thinking thousands of times per second, every second.
Yep.
So it's a little bit creepy. I'm curious to see where that goes. But I got to say, I agree with the answers of the panel. Look, I don't trust media at all, especially mainstream media. And I do tend to keep my ears open to various kinds of podcasts. I don't do the 3-hour one. That's just for me. I don't have that big of a block of time. But we have experienced, I used to break some of these, Rodney knows this, I break these down into short chapters and put them on TikTok. But I think the better performer for me still tends to be YouTube, but keep it right around 50 minutes. That seems to be, at least for me, the sweet spot.
Yeah.
I was doing okay on TikTok, but again, it's just one more thing. It's difficult to be able to maintain multiple.
Well, yeah, the hour is pretty good, because when I go to the gym, that's when I listen to Rogan, when I'm on a treadmill, and I'm trying to occupy my mind with something else other than on the treadmill for an hour and 10 minutes. So that helps. But an hour, yeah, I mean, when I can listen to your show the entire time, it fills the whole session.
Yeah. So I guess, we're almost to our time. So let's see if we can reach a consensus as a panel. I'll go first. I do not think this was a weather balloon, based on the things that we said, based on the speed of it, based on the fact that they got above it, based on the non-ballistic motion, and also a decorated Air Force pilot. This isn't a guy who wrote a movie about his experience and he didn't go on YouTube and tell everyone about this. There was essentially no gain for him in any way. So my sense is he saw something that he could not explain. And there's some quotes to that. He said something to the effect of, look, in 50 years, we might know what it was. But for right now, we saw something strange in the sky that we can't explain. Rodney, you're up next. The Cecconi UFO, was it a weather balloon?
No, I think it was what we think it is. Yeah, I mean, it's there's no reason not to believe that it wasn't. And that's not a weather balloon. So based on his accounts, and he's a highly trained military pilot. He knows what he's looking at. and he would know if it was a weather balloon or not.
Oh,
He
one
knows-
more thing I forgot. It was sighted. It was on radar, which at the time, this isn't true anymore. But when he did it, it was that weather balloons were made out of like latex. There wouldn't have been anything for radar to lock onto, and
Right.
radar did see this object, which suggests that the object was made out of metal.
Yeah, and he was 500 feet from it. If he can't discern from 500 feet that it's not a weather balloon, he doesn't deserve to be flying that jet. So yeah, I believe it was something else.
Okay, great answer. I appreciate that, Rodney. Todd, you're up next. The Cecconi UFO, was it a weather balloon?
I don't think so. It's the way that the object moved. It seemed to be controlled. It seemed to be deliberate in all of its motions. So yeah, weather balloons don't really behave that way. So yeah, I don't think it was a weather balloon at all.
Good answer. Tom Hutchison, you get the final word. Was the Cecconi UFO a weather balloon, or was it something else?
Yeah, these things. Like I said at the beginning. It's what it does that really is going to tell you what these things are. You can take pictures of all kinds of crazy things that are just sitting in the sky and go, oh, UFO. But if you have actual sort of documentation of like it's turning, it's moving, it's racing away from me, it's doing things besides just kind of hanging out, then it has to be something other than just a blimp or weather balloon or targeting balloon or whatever those kinds of things are. Then you're talking about something that has actual, I don't know if we call it whatever, man-made, functionality to it, alien-made functionality to it. That kind of changes the game as far as figuring out if it's real or not.
So it sounds like we reached a consensus. This is a UFO.
Yeah.
All right, good answers, good answers. So I appreciate you guys giving me your knowledge and your experience to try and dissect this UFO sighting. Going to have some good ones coming in the next couple of weeks, and I'm really looking forward to where this channel is going with the UFO research. Before we go tonight, though, let's take a second and you can promote anything you might like to promote and tell us where we can find you, starting with Rodney.
You can find me the Art of Rodney Fike Art on Facebook and Instagram, and right here with you whenever you'll have me.
Nice. So far, we're pretty religiously sticking to the first Friday of every month for the UFOs.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Rodney.
Thank you for having me. It's a great.
Yeah, man. It's a good subject, right? I enjoyed this one. Todd, how about you? Tell us where we can find you.
The new issue of Camouflage, the official Sabaton magazine, is out, and I read that comic. Also, this is the first cover piece I've done for HCMP. I thought it was pretty cool.
Oh, so very cool,
nice.
Man.
That one out there. This is for Pink Power 2. This is one of the incentive covers. And yeah, the Normal Man Omnibus again went into a second printing, so that should be out there. Oh, hey, Chris Hall, who is there too? He did the coloring on the interiors.
Nice job, Chris.
Very nice.
And by the way, Chris, you got a great point. That's something that Tom mentioned earlier. There's millions of people with cell phones. Why didn't they get a picture of it? And in this case, I always love to mention a line that was in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, written by Steven Spielberg. And the line says, you got professional news reporters out on the streets every day with all their cameras. It's very rare. They used to say never, but you can't say never anymore, to get a picture of a plane crash as it was happening. Now, since then, it has happened once or twice. But the point being that if something's some phenomenon, it can be difficult to get a picture of it.
That's fair.
So, yeah, it's very possible, right? So let's move over to Tom. Tom, hey, man, really, thanks so much for coming and for filling in for C. Michael Lanning, who couldn't make it tonight. And right at the last minute, luckily, we were on another podcast, and I was like, oh, Tom will come. So tell us a little bit about where we can find you.
So we're on all the social media stuff that you guys do. You can look up Big Dog Inc. We have Patreon. We have X. We have Instagram. Facebook is where we kind of do all of our stuff primarily. And then we're a Kickstarter company at this point. So we did a 24-hour campaign on the 1st, just to kind of get the year kicked off right. went over really well. And we have Critter wrapping up issue 25 for the series that'll be
Nice.
launching on January 18th.
Congratulations. That's impressive.
Cool.
That's very cool. Well done, Tom.
Thank you.
To the viewers, thanks for tuning in this week. I really appreciate the support that you have lent to our little UFO podcast. And I look forward to seeing you next week when we are going to join the ghost sightings team. And we're going to analyze the third round of ghost photos. So I'll look forward to seeing you guys next Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Thanks so much, everybody.